Now let's start with one of the most common and obvious mistakes that I see throughout all of the money videos, both millennial money and money tours, is that a very large percentage of them cannot afford their current lifestyle on their current income. Basically, it just means that they're spending way too much money. And honestly, it's very easy to see why this is happening. You know, financial literacy is not something that's really taught in schools. So a lot of people just enter the adult world just expected to figure it out as they go along, and by doing so, they're obviously going to have a lot of mistakes along the way. If people aren't taught to budget, to track their spending, to invest, and to think long term, then it's no wonder why we see people spending $71 on Sprinkles cupcakes making $15,000 a year in New York City. Until eventually it just reaches the tipping point where they realize that that spending is not sustainable. And from that, they either just make drastic lifestyle changes way too late, or they just accept that they'll never be ahead financially, which is not going to happen on my watch. That's why my number one piece of advice for anyone between the ages of 18 and 35 is just to spend less money than you make. I know this one might sound common sense to you and I, but believe me, it's not common sense to most people out there, especially when you consider that 40% of Americans don't have enough in savings to cover a $1,000 emergency. So the easiest way to get out of that trap is to cut back on your spending and get rid of any discretionary expenses that you might have. Also, websites like mint.com and personalcapital.com are completely free and incredibly easy to use, and believe me, trust me when I say this, the hardest part about doing all of this is just starting to turn this into a habit and a routine. But once you start doing this, the benefits are going to become monumental. You're going to have extra money left over at the end of every single week, and you're going to have disposable income left over that you can now go and invest with. This step is really just about seeing the long term and realizing the opportunity that you have right now to begin investing as soon as possible. These are really your prime savings years because you have the power of compound interest behind you, so you may as well just take advantage of that while you still can.
And money mistake, regret number 2, is not getting a credit card sooner. And before age 25, all I used was cash and debit cards. I never used a credit card, and I should have gotten one sooner, but I didn't, 'cause I'm dumb, yo. Just kidding. It's partially that, but thanks to my parents, when we came here as immigrants, they made some mistakes. And as much as I love my parents, anyone could have made these credit card mistakes coming here as an immigrant. And of course, with that came ruined credit histories. And with that, it became very difficult to do basic things like get financing on a car, financing on a house, and even essentials like renting out an apartment. So naturally, I avoided credit cards, and I had no idea that if used responsibly, which is literally as easy as not spending money you don't have, keeping your utilization rate low, just pay off your balance every single month by setting it to auto pay, you could have incredible perks like cash back, points for travel, free stuff, consumer protections, roadside assistance, and so much more. I had no idea of any of this stuff. Credit cards could literally be your best friend in a time where you're taken advantage of, or if you simply bought something you just didn't like and you wanted to return. They will fight to get you your money back. I didn't know any of that.
Number 3 is never flaunt your money or don't show off your riches or wealth, okay? Stealth wealth is the way. The reason for this is because it attracts the wrong things in life. So the first couple things that we talked about in this video were more like defensive, like don't play the lottery, save your money, things like that. This is going to fix your offense, okay? Don't be too offensive with showing off your money. The reason for that is because it attracts the wrong things in life. It attracts gold diggers, people that are only interested in being with you because you have money. It attracts fake friends. You're the guy that's always paying for bottle service when you go out. You're always buying everyone dinner and everyone's just smiling and, oh, you're the best. But when that money dries up, trust me, those friends leave. And then finally, what can you do for me? It creates that what can you do for me attitude. Hey, I'm only associated with Mike, for example, the guy with the $2,000 credit card balance, because maybe he can do something for me, right? So stealth wealth prevents all this. It also prevents people from thinking you're rich, so you're snobby, right? Oh, this person's rich, they must be snobby, which isn't usually the case. You're rich because you're cutthroat in business. You have no morals, which is not usually the case. Or you're rich because you're a trust fund baby whose parents funded your entire existence, right? So you don't want people thinking about that. I mean, if you do, that's fine, but You want to be able to create your own legacy with your own effort and value that you bring to the table. So what I would say to fix this is live a life rich in experiences, kind of like traveling, learning a new language, cuisine, things like that, as opposed to living a life rich in material possessions, if that makes sense.
The number 4 money tip I would give to every single person is you might not be an employee, okay? There's a lot of times you hear people say things like, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, or not everybody's meant to open up a business. Could be true, absolutely. But also, you might not be meant to be an employee. If you're just thinking like, I'm gonna work in the workforce and that's gonna be my thing, that might not be your calling, okay? You might be limiting yourself in a massive, massive way. First off, like coming from my perspective, like there's so much more money to be made as an entrepreneur than in the workforce. It's not even remotely close, okay? Not initially, that's not how it works. But over time, as long as you're persistent and you understand, I gotta get a little better here, a little better there, a little better marketing, things like that. Like understand there's so much more money to be made as an entrepreneur than in the workforce. You might not be the right person to be in the workforce, okay? Me, myself, I'm not the right person to be in the workforce. When I'm in the workforce, I can't breathe because I feel in a situation like I'm not getting promoted fast enough. I want to rise the ranks and I feel like I'm held back and it's like, oh no, you gotta wait another 2 years. You gotta prove yourself for the next 3 years, 5 years, and then we'll promote you and things like that. That's how the workforce works, okay? And that's painful for some people. Some people can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. Like I need to control my own destiny. In the workforce, you can't control your own destiny. It's controlled by your boss and your boss's boss and their boss's boss. Your destiny is controlled by them, okay? And that's how it is. And so you might not be the right one for the workforce, and you just got to understand that. And the earlier you understand it, the better off you'll be, because you'll realize that you might have just been limiting, what you could have done out there, right? You're limiting yourself. If you're just stuck in a workforce environment, right? And you're always, getting down on yourself. Oh, I'm still not promoted. I must not be good enough. And then you start losing self-esteem, and then you start losing drive. And that's the worst. I lost my drive for a while when I was in the workforce, okay? I had to leave the workforce for almost 1.5 years to finally get my drive back. That's how down I had got. It drained me. I was always, trying to reach for the sky, and there was no sky to grab, because it was like, or there was very little sky to grab. Let's just put it that way, right? That's the workforce for you, okay? So you might not be right for the workforce. You got to figure that out, and you got to just kind of, understand how you feel about things. How do you feel? Do you feel that driven each and every day to keep going out there and working in the workforce? If you do, great. And if you're happy, great. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of people out there that hate their jobs, hate their workplace, feel drained every single day, and you might not be in the right place, man. Like, you should probably be running a business. You should probably be going out there and doing your own stuff and things like that. So it's another big thing you got to factor in.
Waiting to invest is costing you. And it's costing you a lot. I'm not talking about a small fee that you miss out on or whatever it is. There's possibly thousands of dollars that you're missing out on that really can make the difference between being able to retire and not. This idea of opportunity cost, which is tied to the concept of time value of money. Time value of money is a concept that states that money today is worth more than money tomorrow, or money a year from now. And that's in addition to inflation. So if inflation didn't exist, this still would. You would still face opportunity cost. So why is it that money today is worth more than money tomorrow or money a year from now? Well, take this basic example. Imagine that you and I both get $1,000, but I get my $1,000 today, you get your $1,000 a year from now. Given that I have my money today, I can go to a bank, open a savings account, and put my $1,000 in the savings account. And by this time next year, when you get your $1,000, let's say I earn 2%. So now I have $1,000 and $20, and you just have $1,000. I have more money than you, even though we were given the same amount. That's the idea of opportunity cost, because you didn't have your money earlier. You didn't have the opportunity to use that money to grow it, to earn a return and have more money. It's why people value money today more than money tomorrow. So obviously opportunity cost is bad. It sucks that you didn't get your $20. But the issue with opportunity cost is that it grows exponentially the longer your time frame. So the further you put off getting that $1,000, you're seeing an exponential increase in the cost you're facing. This is because of something called compounding or interest on interest. It's the idea that if I invest $100 today and earn 10% a year, in year 1 I'll get $10, but in year 2 I'll get $11, and then in year 3 I'll get $12.10. It's the fact that the dollar return you earn each year is increasing. And if you graph it, you'll see that the slope is actually exponential. So when it comes to investing, compounding is a great tool.
The next tip is to adopt minimalism. I don't like having a lot of belongings, and there's a couple of reasons for this, but actually from a financial perspective, I find that being a minimalist, by having fewer items and making sure that every item has some type of purpose in your life, by being a minimalist, I find it saves so much money because you have fewer items to replace when they break. You have fewer items that you have to worry about fixing all the time. If you have 25 different lamps in your apartment and you have to completely just change light bulbs all the time because they're burning light bulbs all the time, that's just going to be an extra cost for you. And that goes with a lot of other things, that if you just have so many things, you have trinkets, you have plates hanging up on the wall or something, or little rock salt lamps in the background that end up breaking, and then you have to buy a new one, and it just ends up costing you more money. So consider becoming a minimalist.
There's really 3 basic money skills that you have. Spending properly, reasonably. Learning to enjoy money falls under spending. Learning to enjoy life with your money, which is kind of what your question's about. The second one's saving. You got to learn to save money for emergencies, for college, for retirement, to change your family tree, to build wealth. You got to learn to invest. You got to learn to ride the investment waves like we've had in the stock market in the last couple of weeks, right? And giving. The power of generosity to completely change you when you learn to give as the natural rhythm of your life. It changes everything.
The biggest money mistake, in my opinion, that is consistently made when folks start managing their own finances is prioritizing cash flow over wealth. And this is really popularized, especially on YouTube, by, well, YouTube creators driving Lambos and driving around going, cash flow, yeah! This is intoxicating, because of course it's wonderful to have a Lambo and go, oh, my cash flow pays for this. You realize that's great, because it's money that they're making while they're sleeping. But there are a few big problems with passive income or cash flow or dividends. Here they are, especially when you compare them to wealth building. First, something that I teach in my Psychology of Money and Stocks course is you have to ask yourself, what phase of life are you in? There are 2, and only 2. And you gotta ask yourself which ride you're on. Are you in the growth and wealth building phase, or are you in the payoff and then retire phase? For 95% of us watching this video, the odds are we are in the grow your wealth and make as much money as possible to grow your wealth phase. This is why so many of us here, oh yeah, I'm gonna make passive income, but Kevin, don't worry, I'm gonna reinvest that money and I'm gonna grow my wealth even more, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Most of the time when we get cash flow, whether it's real estate cash flow or dividends or from some sort of debt we lent out or whatever, we come up with 2 big problems. Problem number 1, when we receive cash flow, we're really likely to spend it on things that make it look like we're wealthy. And this is normal, because when money comes into our bank account, we feel a little richer, and it's hard to overcome the urge not to, man, I worked so hard this week, I may as well go to the Cheesecake Factory and buy myself a drink tonight. It's very hard to overcome when you get money in the mailbox or money by direct deposit, the urge not to spend it. It's actually a lot harder to reinvest it. And yeah, you can automatically reinvest, but that brings up the second problem, taxes. When you're retired, that is when you're in that paid off phase of life, you're generally in a lower tax bracket because, well, you're not making money at your job anymore. See, when you're working a job, you're paying some base taxes, right? When you're retired, you don't have those base taxes anymore, and you can start making passive income and you pay very, very little tax on that first amount of passive income you make. But when you got a job and you're making money, like you and your wife, let's say you're each making $30,000 or you're each making $40,000, or you and your boyfriend, your husband, it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter, right? When you're making money combined, any cash flow you get goes on top of that. And that tends to get taxed at a higher rate. That means every time you get $100 or $1,000 in cash flow or dividends or cash flow from real estate or payments from whatever, the government's coming in going, good job, worker bee, give me a share of that. And I hate that. I would much rather instead, while I'm working, focus on building my wealth. Because when you build your wealth, guess what happens? You don't have to pay taxes. And in some cases, you never have to pay taxes. Sometimes you sell and you have to pay taxes, but there are ways never to pay taxes.
You gotta stop buying crap that you don't need. And there's a reason for this. Everybody is programmed, society programs you, advertisers program you, everybody's programming you to spend money. That's how the whole society works. That's what capitalism is all about. I mean, you know, the whole idea of consumer goods and services, that you need more of this stuff, that you go into credit to buy this stuff. That's all bad. Bottom line, one of the biggest spending items is clothing. You buy so much crap you don't need, and it just sits in the closet for years until you give it to somebody for free. You wasted that dough. And when I say that, it's because if you take that money, and this is like an age-old theme, you take that money and you basically don't save it. Saving makes you nothing because you get paid nothing in a bank. You invest it. You're taking this money that you didn't waste by buying another pair of jeans, another pair of sneakers, a $5 coffee. No. I've said that before. That's a total waste of dough. You start saving like $5 a day, $10 a day, $50 a week. You'd be amazed over your career how much that's worth as it compounds at 6, 7, 8% a year.
Final tip is to remember that health is wealth. And probably one of the most productive things you can do all day today is to exercise, and to remember that the goal of making money is to enjoy life. It's not the other way around. Money is just a medium, one tool among many in order to help you live the life that you want.